purpose of this live is to break down for you the different respiratory volumes that make up your capacity for breath. When you understand this, you begin to understand the vocabulary of what you're doing when you breathe. So I know also on Instagram this is going to look reversed, but I'm hoping to be able to flip that video and then put it back up so you can actually read what I'm writing. And now, here we go. So first of all, we'll just go ahead and title this Respiratory Volumes. And right, your lungs, they live in the top part of your rib cage. They surround your heart. They're what breathes for you. And we have different names for the different parts of breath. So when you inhale and exhale, there's actually like a cadence or a scale to what's going on depending on the size of your breathing. And the first type of breath volume that you all want to know about is called tidal volume. Tidal volume is the amount of air that you breathe when you're not thinking about it. So it can vary depending on when you're at rest. You don't need much. Or like when you're taking a walk or running, you might need more. But in general, this volume of air is around a half liter, which is not that much when you consider your actual breath capacity. So I'm just going to go ahead, we're going to make a line here. And this is the mid-range of your breath capacity. And your tidal volume kind of looks like this. And we'll say that it's right here, 0.5 liters, tidal volume. 0.5 liters. That volume also has a natural pause. So you inhale and your body kind of surfs that for a moment. Then you exhale and your body surfs it usually for a little less time. And it's about the middle capacity of where you can breathe as far as where your lungs go. It's where it's easiest for them. Now above that, we have inhalatory reserve volume. That's what you use if you take a longer breath, or like when you're raising your arms and you're trying to yawn and you're increasing the capacity of your lungs to stretch. That's all your inhalatory reserve volume. And that's between 2 and 3.5 liters of breath, depending on your own body's size. So a smaller human is going to have less capacity for volume than a larger human. That's all that means. So let's go ahead and draw an inhalatory reserve volume now. And it could go like up to here. And it still will probably have a pause at the top of the inhalation. Your body kind of notes where it is. Just like if you get to a stretch, you would pause at the end and you would note like, okay, I hit my end point. And then you would come out of it. So that's like max 2 to 3.5 liters. So right here, IRV, 2 to 3.5 liters. You can work to increase that inhalatory reserve volume by practicing long, deep breaths, and also by using the muscles that surround your lungs to stretch and get stronger, to hold them open, which is what pulls the air into your system. We'll take ourselves back down. And now we're going to look at exhalatory reserve volume. An exhalatory reserve volume is everything that happens after you've passed down through your tidal volume and you keep on exhaling. So let's do this. Let's all take a really big inhalation. And you'll kind of notice like, okay, this is normal. And then if you keep on going, now you're up into inhalatory reserve volume. Just hold that, feel the stretch. And now let's exhale. You'll notice there's like a relaxation that happens as you return. And you can stop there. There's still air in your system. You basically exhaled back down to your tidal volume. Now, if you keep exhaling, you notice there's effort. You feel your chest pushing, you feel your abs contract. And if you were to cough, that would push out more air, which takes you down into your actual exhalatory reserve volume. which is between 1 and 1.2 liters depending on your size. So it's less than your capacity to inhale, but it's still really a thing. And when you work on that, that's also where you get better abdominal control, you get better pelvic floor control. You also have more capacity to move the crud out of your system or out of your lungs. You know how, say you've been breathing in polluted air, or you've been in a fire, or, you know, for me that happened after 9/11. I had like coughing fits for about 6 months afterwards. Bad enough, I actually threw my back out with one of them. That's your body working to squeeze out the exhalatory reserve volume to start to push the things that your body doesn't want in your lungs anymore out. A good thing to practice if you want to keep healthy lungs or have great abs. So I'm gonna go down, and that's like about 1.2 liters. So we'll do that. And we'll set, say, ERV 1.2 liters. You probably can't read my writing, but at least you can hear me. You can't, yeah, read my writing, that worked. So here we are. And then beneath that, you actually have another volume capacity. And that's called your reserve volume, or your residual volume. And that's the amount of air that, as long as you're alive, is never going to leave your lungs. Because if it did, the whole structure would collapse so much that it wouldn't be able to expand anymore. That's also what happens when a child is born and they take their first breath. That first breath is probably the hugest effort you'll have to breathe in your healthy lifetime. Because that first breath pulled everything apart and started the mechanism of breathing that up until then didn't need to happen. All of your life force was delivered through a tube through your belly button. So beneath that, we have residual volume, and that's another 1 to 1.5 liters of air that keeps your lungs with a capacity to expand. So we're gonna do a little line here, and then we'll go down that last bit of volume. Maybe we'll make a dotted line because it never really happens if you're alive. And then we just come back up to regular tidal volume. So when you're looking at strengthening your lungs, in the case of having like COPD or any other type of breathing disorder, you have less elasticity in your lungs and the tissue in general. That's why there's that problem. But you can work to create more capacity for flexibility and more capacity for easy breath and expansion by strengthening the muscles around your lungs, the ones that breathe for you, and attuning your system, getting it used to the feeling of breathing more. So when we start to do breathwork practices, what we're often doing is we're moving up into our inhalatory reserve volume, and then we'll take a pause. A pause. You should also know that. So that term is apnea, is a pause anywhere in the breath. You know that because sleep apnea basically describes when your breath pauses spontaneously, and that can be a problem for people. But when you pause and you use it, you're learning control. It's like an isometric hold if you're doing weight training or really any kind of movement training. So when we're doing these breathwork exercises, we're going to be going to some place, pausing, and then continuing on in either exhaling, maybe going into the exhalatory reserve volume, or going back into an inhalation to strengthen a different part of your inhalatory reserve volume. And that's how you strengthen your breath. All right, end of story. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tonight to start the core breathwork practice.